All right. Welcome, everyone. We are live here on an impromptu version of, I guess, Blinkin Riley Presents Twitch show. No Tom tonight. We have the franchises Chisholm Holland. How's it going, Chisholm?
Yeah, doing well, brother. I'm excited to be here. First off, Twitch virginity being taken. I've never appeared on a Twitch show before, so I'm excited
Oh.
about that.
Oh, well, that's good. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
There's a
I'm excited for
there's
this
a
whole
first for
process.
everyone.
Yeah, most people's was at 16. Mine was closer to 23, but no judgment either way.
I've never actually played a video game on Twitch. Um, I can't figure out how to do it, but
I've
but
got a brother who's
I'm a little older
I've got a,
though.
yeah, me too. I got a little brother though who's freshly 18, and he is convinced that, oh, well, I'll just play video games on Twitch for a living. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but like, what if that doesn't work? He's like, no, Chisholm, you don't understand. I'm just gonna play video games on Twitch. I'm like, all right, man, power to you, I guess.
Just muddle through until it happens, right?
Yeah. He's just like, it's assumed. Like, what do you mean if it doesn't happen? I'm like, I'm proud of your confidence, son.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have that confidence if you're gonna succeed in life, right? I mean,
For sure.
you got to know that you're gonna do it.
Yeah. His is. Oh gosh, now I'm gonna butcher it, and people are gonna get pissed. League of Legends, if I'm not mistaken. I think
Oh,
that's what
okay,
it is.
okay,
Yeah. Big League of Legends guy. So he's telling me he's gonna make it. So power to him.
yeah. There you go. There you go. My boss, um, his kid does Twitch and was getting started in this last year. Playing Fortnite and stuff. But it's real slow going in the beginning, right? Nobody's watching, nobody's in the chat, and so he came to me and he was like, "Hey, do you think there's anything that you could do?" So I wrote a Python script that basically just sent IP address after IP address over and over and over again at his Twitch channel to boost his viewers up to like 30 or 40.
That's awesome.
He's doing good now. I mean, he's rolling all on his own. He's got hundreds of followers and he's rocking and rolling.
No need for your Python script anymore.
No need.
No need. Good for him. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But yeah, that was funny. We kind of gamed it. I'm sure it's super against Twitter or Twitch policy, but whatever.
Yeah. Now, if you would have got his like channel taken down, that would have been mortifying, and you would have had some explaining to do.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Some usual suspects in the chat already. Up Doc says Boomer Sooner. We've got Purdue Sooner, who is a regular and a big Purdue fan. Get
The
him going.
Boilermakers?
Yeah, the Boilermakers. Don't get him started on Rondale Moore. I mean, he can go for days.
Well, if you're a Purdue football fan, I'm sorry. That's a long uphill battle of not a whole lot of highlights. So I'm happy for you. I'm glad it's working out, but not a storied history at Purdue.
No, not as much. We got T.M. Crittenden says go to hell, Blinken. That's
Okay.
that's Tom. That's the usual guy that's with me.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, he thinks he's being funny. But he should be working because he didn't get off work till 9.
Oh yeah. Gotta pay attention to your job too, man. Come on
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So what happened? What happened Saturday?
Isn't that the question we all want to know?
Yeah, I'm like I was trying to just distract you and then rip the Band-Aid off, right?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
what happened?
Yeah, so I work with athletes, and I've been told, first off, athletes always know a whole lot better than people who did not play college football know. That's at least what I've been informed. And I've talked to Rufus Alexander, I've talked to Sam Mays, I've talked to a few people who I know that don't work at the radio station who are former collegiate athletes, and I've gotten a different answer from every single one of them. So here's what I know: is that no one is 100% sure how K-State came out on top of that ball game. It feels like it's just kind of the case of the right time with the right team playing the right kind of way in the right circumstances. It just seems like almost everything kind of fell that direction. And when you have a game from Skylar Thompson like that, like I
Yeah.
just don't know what else you can do other than roll your eyes and go, yeah, it's just not our day. And that's just kind of what it felt like on Saturday. It's just like, oh yeah, it's just not OU's day today. It's just not going to work out. Because even when it came down to the review at the end of the onside kick, and we're watching the broadcast, and OU Twitter is telling us, hey, no, the rule is they're going to get this ball back, and everyone's so excited. Like, no, no, no. You're clearly not reading the room. It's not their day. They're not going to get this. They're not going to get this. They're not going to get this review to go their direction. It's going to be K-State's ball, because that's just kind of how it felt like the whole day was going. And
Yeah.
there's 1,000 different things we could point to with scheme and whatever and coaching, but overall, it just felt like it wasn't Oklahoma's day.
Yeah, it was a weird game. I mean, I don't know, how much analytics and stuff you follow, but Bill Connolly at ESPN, he puts out his advanced box scores, and just based on the stats and what happened on the field, Kansas State had a 35-ish% chance of winning that game. What happened was the turnovers, for one. They are hugely impactful on a football game, and two, there was a huge lull in the offensive like success in the third quarter. Like those two coupled together, you know, probably accounted for something like a 28-point swing. So yeah, it's just a weird deal. Weird deal.
Yeah. I don't know what you were doing on that Saturday, but I was very, very excited to watch Ohio State that weekend, or last weekend. I was
Mm-hmm.
pumped for that game, and I have a room where I have multiple TVs, and I had the Ohio. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with Sooner fans. I had the Ohio State game on the big TV, and Oklahoma kind of pushed up to the corner on one of the little TVs because I got to play K State. There was a
Right.
moment when they were up 10-0, and then I just quit paying attention, and then I looked back up, and I was like, wait, K-State's making this interesting. This is suddenly turning into a ball game, and then Ohio State ran away with it. The first quarter, it felt like everything was going Oklahoma's way, and I don't know really what the moment was that seemed to flip towards the Wildcats, but outside of just saying they didn't capitalize on the momentum they had early in the ball game, I don't know how far you can really go with the blame towards Oklahoma other than it just not being the right situation, but they had a chance. They just didn't capitalize early. It was a weird game from start to finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I was sitting on my couch and just sunk, lower and lower into it as the day went on. Jumped up for a second after the onside kick, and then went right back in there.
Do you
Tom,
think that should have been their ball?
no,
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, it hit him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
At the time, I didn't even notice that he was blocked in the back.
Right.
I didn't even see that until hours later on Twitter when people were talking about it.
Yeah. In real time, I thought that ball just took like the weirdest bounce to ever take. Like I was like, how did that ball bounce like that?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just thought,
Yeah.
it's a football. It bounces weird,
Yeah, because it shot out of a rocket. But here's what I will say: is if you're screenshotting the rule book, I assumed it's Oregon's ball. If you're screenshotting the rule book and putting it on Twitter, I just think you're wrong. I'm really sorry. I think you're wrong. That's just not a good case. You're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm just being a big Eeyore about this, and I'm just like, whatever. I don't care if it was right or wrong. It's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
But at the time it seemed right. I was watching the replay and they're like, it hit him, and I was like, oh yeah, it hit him, and I was that was when I had conceded defeat.
Right.
And Tom says, I just assumed it was Oregon's ball.
Right. I was actually just on the radio with Rufus Alexander, who was a part of that game, and every so often I like just asking him his thoughts on the Oregon Ducks because he gets a little frustrated.
Yeah, just to get him a little flustered.
Yeah, and I make sure I ask it in like a passive way, so I'm not being direct. But I'm just like, yeah, man, Oregon, good football team. What do you think about their program up there as a whole?
Oh, that's funny. You
Yeah,
see steam coming out of his ears.
them and Boise State are the two teams that he just
Oh
refuses to
God.
talk about. Which most Oklahoma fans, I assume, refuse to talk about.
See, the thing about Boise State is like, during the off season when everyone starts making those lists and stuff, like that appears on every single one of them.
Right.
Greatest Cinderella moments, greatest bowl moments, greatest upsets. Golly, man, just we're just gonna wear that until the end of eternity.
Yes, that will be that will be something that people talk about forever, especially while we're still around, because we were alive to see it.
Yeah.
Sad day for sure. But it's always Oregon's ball. You're right, Tom. That's it's always the case.
Let's see. Updoc says something about the angle they were lining up. I don't know. Seemed plausible. Had the jump all game long. I assume that means the angle they were lining up in the replay, or is this like offensive line play? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he's getting at there, but
Yeah.
probably the same answer for
assume he means
both.
because yeah, Oklahoma was running a slant on their defensive line, and that's what some people are chalking up as the reason that they struggled. I assume that might be what he's talking about. And
Oh
I'm not a
yeah,
football player. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not a
yeah.
football player. I
Well,
think
they
that probably
had.
played a role. Maybe not the entire reason they lost.
I'm not a big film guy. I'm a numbers guy. I like stuff after it happened.
Right.
But I saw a lot of guys talking about the kind of weird offensive line pulls and things they were doing were
Sure.
pretty unique, and you know most guys aren't gonna pick up on that. The people aren't taught to look for that kind of stuff. Which if you're going up against you know Oklahoma, and you're gonna pull out all the stops, I guess. But that was a frustrating game. Frustrating game.
It
What
was
do
a
you
frustrating game for sure.
what do you think of playoff hopes, playoff probabilities?
Yeah, so I generally on the radio get labeled as a negative Nancy when it comes to college football in Oklahoma. Just because it's really boring to only talk about the things they do well, so I like talking about the things they do poorly too. Here's what I'll say: is I am way more positive about this than the Sooner fan base is right now. I don't get why everyone is so the season's over. They're Eoring, to use the
Yeah,
word that you just used.
they are.
I
Yeah,
don't
they're
get
Eeyore.
that. Florida and Georgia play this weekend. LSU, Alabama play later on in the year. The winner of both of those games will play each other in the SEC championship game. Ohio State, Penn State play later. Oregon's likely going to play Utah in the Pac-12 champ. Like all these teams above Oklahoma, it's not like they just have hard remaining schedules. They literally play each other. And as we know, when it comes to the college football playoffs, sometimes it's not about who you lost to or how you lost. It's when did you lose. And Oklahoma might actually losing early might be a benefit because all these other teams are going to get losses later in the year, so they might be able to leapfrog them. I'm pretty hopeful that Oklahoma could find a way to the college football playoff. I think it's actually leaning that direction. And you're the guy with the analytics, so you could tell me after that game was over, they said there's a 17% chance that OU. That seems so low to me, and I just don't understand where that number's coming from or how that could actually
That
be the case just based off the situation.
that Oklahoma makes the playoff.
Yes.
I would just from like a probability standpoint, most of that's coming from the the odds of them winning every single game from here on out. Um, you know, those are pretty low, lower than you would think. You look down the schedule and you're like, oh, there's no way Oklahoma loses that game. And then you look at the next one, there's no way Oklahoma loses that game, and you go on and on and on. But it's like think of a coin flip, right? Every flip is 50-50, but the odds of flipping 10 in a row are pretty small. And so,
Sure.
those odds compound on each other, and you might have a 85-90% chance of winning every single ball game left. But that when you smash those all together of winning all of them, it goes down pretty quickly. So I see where they're going. I think a lot of those models. Well, one, they're trying to build a mathematical model that guesses what a bunch of people in a room are going to do. That's that's
Yeah.
incredibly difficult, and I don't even know how you go about starting that. But I think those will get a little more accurate, maybe a little more telling once that initial ranking comes out. I guess what is that, Tuesday? The
Yeah,
initial
yeah.
college football
Tuesday will be
ranking.
the first CFP ranking coming out. That'll be interesting just to see, not necessarily 1 through 4, but to see 5 through 12 really of what that looks like.
Right, right. Everyone else who's still in play, where they fall in that initial ranking relative to each other, because that's going to be important, you know, at the end, then it's, well, why did they jump this person at the end, right? Like,
Right.
it's that's gonna be a big thing for those the things like 538 and ESPN and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Up,
Someone in here says that it's hard to Updoc. Sorry, I apologize. Says it's hard to see OU getting in over Oregon. Is that hard to see? Do you think that's hard to see?
I don't. I mean,
Me
at the
either.
end of the season, is Auburn really going to be that much better of a win or a loss than Kansas State? I mean,
I
honestly, I like how
yeah
many more losses does Auburn have in them? Probably a
yeah,
couple.
and I think for all the hate the Big 12 gets, I mean the Pac-12 is just hilariously bad. Like
Yeah.
I mean they got the worst team in the Pac-12 beating the third best team in the Pac-12, and then everyone's flipping flop positions. I have to do the power rankings at thefranchiseok.com every week, and with that I have to rank every single conference. So in the Pac-12 it's 1 through 14, and you talk about an impossible thing to do because everyone has beaten someone and lost to someone else, and they're just all over the Pac-12 is just not going to hold a whole lot of weight, I think, at the end of the year. And also, I don't know why OU fans don't like talking about this, but their logo and their color scheme that matters a whole lot, and that's going to play a role. And I think the fact that they're Oklahoma and the other team is Oregon, I think if it's real close, I think they might get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And, especially if there's, this is I guess the cynical, this might be a cynical take, but especially if there's storylines there.
Sure.
What if Oklahoma's sneaking into the 4 spot and Alabama ends up number 1? You know,
Right.
who are they gonna send? Are they gonna send Oregon that nobody on the West Coast is really gonna watch, or they're gonna send Oklahoma and Jalen Hurts to go play his old team? I mean, that might not come into it, but I have a hard time believing that they would
Yeah.
pass up on an opportunity for a game like that.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said earlier, Oregon's got to play Utah in the Pac-12 championship. I like Utah a whole lot, and their only loss this year came when Zach Moss got hurt early in that first quarter, and they were playing a weird USC team, and they lost in overtime. It wouldn't shock me if Utah upset Oregon in the last week of the year.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't shock me either. I think before the season, Utah was my pick for the Pac-12 champion. So got to ride the fighting Zach Mosses.
I don't know if you play college fantasy football. If you're not, you should because I feel like you would dominate.
I am in a few leagues. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Zach Moss is my favorite player I own this year. I just can't get enough of Zach Moss. He's so much fun.
He's great. I mean, he's like this little hidden gem in the West, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's awesome.
People talk about the best running back in college football all the time. I'm really sorry. It's not Trey Sermon or Kennedy Brooks. It might be Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure. Uh, Zach Moss is my favorite running back to watch in the country. It's not close. He is a blast.
Yeah, yeah. He's definitely fun to watch. Speaking of fantasy, college fantasy football, I'm in a Big 12 only league
Oh my gosh.
with 10 teams.
Oh my lord.
Oh man,
Yeah, Tylan Wallace, because
you
that's
you pick a defense and you're stuck with them.
right, right.
Uh, but it's been fun. It's been pretty fun, but it's been a challenge for sure. I loaded up on running backs. I got Brooks
Yeah,
and Hubbard.
good
You know,
call.
other people are picking quarterbacks. I'm like, psh, I'll roll with Austin Kendall or something.
Right. Let's see. I am in a college fantasy league that one, two, three. It has 28 people in it.
Oh no.
Yes, it is so much freaking fun. But yeah, it's 28 people, and it's not just the Power Five. It's also the Group of Five and all that stuff. So like my starting quarterback is from Charlotte. Kid throws like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns
Oh,
every
okay.
week.
So you're doing
Yeah,
group of
yeah.
five too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
And
all the other ones that I'm in are just Power Five only, and so
right.
I mean that makes sense with 28 teams.
Yeah, so my running backs from one of my running backs is from Western Kentucky. My wide receivers from UAB. Like it's hilarious and I love it. It's
Awesome.
my favorite fantasy league I'm in.
Is that with 28 teams? Do you do head to head or is it like rotisserie?
So we do 4 divisions, and the division champ gets in, and then 2 wild cards based off record and points scored. And and you think like if people play NFL fantasy, which I'm sure most people do, you're used to like scores being like 110 to 120 if you're playing like a PPR league,
Mm-hmm.
right around 100 if you're playing standard. College fantasy, these kids put up ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
So you have like 235 to 267. Like the scores are just outrageous every week. And you have quarterbacks who average like 48 points. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. We've got Grumpy says Chuba gets me all the points.
He
Yeah.
absolutely does.
Well, yeah.
Running.
When you get the ball 35 times a game.
So I was gonna say 37 rushing attempts really helps that.
What
That-
era
that
are
part
we
did.
in? What era are we in when the Oklahoma State running back gets 35 carries a game and Oklahoma's running backs get 6?
So true. So true. I feel like that's like a weird soft spot. People don't like talking about the fact that the running backs don't run the ball in Oklahoma right now.
Yeah, it's very weird. You know, I miss the old days where Riley would, he'd trot out Brooks or somebody for 3 quarters, and then send in fresh legs on Sermon or something and just grind them down to the end. I loved that. Like it's almost like a closer in baseball.
Yeah. I,
I,
th- I really thought after the first few weeks that we were going to see um, Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks play a large role, but then really Stevenson at the end of the game I thought was going to be the hammer who was going to be the guy just to wear out clock, kind of like what you're talking about, because that's
Right.
been a strategy we'd seen a lot. I'm shocked that they haven't gone to that this year.
I know, but they did in the first few games. That's what they were doing. Stevenson was
Yeah.
coming in at the end and just wearing them down. I mean, but
Yeah.
they've kind of gotten away from it.
They have, and they're really relying on Jalen right now to be the main source of the running game, which I've talked about pretty publicly. I get that he's doing it and he's being very efficient, and I'm not disagreeing with all that. I just think that's not a sustainable strategy to have your quarterback be your leader in rushing attempts every single game.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, there's no reason that your quarterback should be leading the country in rushes of 10 or more yards. Like
Right. It's a cool stat to say, but that also is not a good thing.
right. I think during the Kansas State game, it was some time around the half, and it was Oklahoma had 190 some yards and 180 something were Jalen Hurts. And I was like, that's not necessarily a good stat.
Right.
That's,
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It's just not a sustainable thing. I mean, you need other guys to like take some of those carries and take some of those hits.
So, what do you think about the Trey Sermon thing? I think it's so weird that he's just been absent for a few weeks.
Yeah, I think that's weird too. I mean, he was such a good player last year. Like I said, 2 years ago he was he was that quote unquote closer guy.
Right.
And then this year he's just disappeared. I mean, Pledger's getting carries over Sermon, and I don't know, Riley. Like, I feel like he knows that nobody believes him, but doesn't care. When he
Right.
says stuff like, "Oh, it was just scheme," all the plays that happened to be Sermon, when Sermon was in, we just game situation dictated that, you know, the ball didn't go his way. I don't buy that. I mean,
Yeah, I
maybe to some
Blinkin.
extent, maybe if they had like dropped like some, like his carries had dropped some, but not completely vanished.
Right. I will tell you, I love my job. I would literally never do anything else if I had a choice. Lincoln Riley is one of the most frustrating coaches to cover. Dude, that guy, he refuses to give you anything. And I don't mean like I'm expecting to know the game plan or what play they're going to run, but just like the whole Trey Sermon thing to act like nothing is going on is just silly. And I wish we had some clarity kind of on the running back situation and why Trey Sermon isn't more involved. But no, he is acting like everything is totally normal and this is the game plan and everyone's on the same page. And I'm sure
Yeah.
if we talk to Sermon, he would maybe not agree with that statement.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you could get him to talk candidly, I assume.
Right. I
Um,
don't know. I don't know if his words would be, "Yeah, this is exactly what I expected this year. 3 rushing attempts."
yeah, that's it's wild. I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird deal. What do we got in
Yeah.
the chat here? We'll see. Do you think Baylor beats TCU next week?
Oh man, Baylor looked so bad last night.
Didn't they?
They did. They not only were they bad, they were also boring, which is the worst combination. If you're gonna be bad, at least like turn it over a whole bunch so it's interesting. Um, I'm gonna say I think Baylor's gonna win. TCU got that big win over Texas, and when you're a middle of the road team, generally you don't pile up upsets. You're not gonna pull away a whole bunch of shocking victories as a middle of the road team. And I kind of think that's what TCU is this year. Even though I think they're number 18 in the country in defense, I think they're kind of the middle of the Big 12. So I'm gonna say I think Baylor's gonna win, and obviously that would help Oklahoma. You want Baylor to continue to rock and roll until they come down to Norman. So that's my thought. That's my thought, but I'm not totally convinced. The Big 12 is just so all over the place.
Yeah, Baylor. Well, 2 weeks ago, I thought Baylor's kind of undefeated bubble was going to burst any time now.
Right.
Because some of the wins they have are, well, one, literally, I guess, shouldn't have happened, and two, some of them were, real close, and so I don't know that Baylor's good defensively, which is a weird thing to say, just in general, but
Yeah, 33rd in the country, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I can't see him like sustaining it. Right? They got to lose at some point. I mean, they
Yeah.
probably lose to. I think the big thing is they've got Texas and Oklahoma in Waco. Are those games back to back?
For Baylor,
Yeah.
I can look. They finished their year TCU, Oklahoma, Texas, at Kansas.
Okay, so Oklahoma and Texas back to back in Waco.
Hmm.
That's gonna. I think that's got to be tough, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's tough if you think Texas is good, but now I don't know what I think about Texas.
Oh no, Texas is like Camping World Bowl bound. Like they're not great.
The Russell Athletic Bowl.
Well,
Um,
no, what's going to happen is they're going to end up, going to like the Texas Bowl or like the Heart of Dallas Bowl, so people
right,
travel, right?
right.
Yeah.
I have a weird bowl game story, if that's okay. I
Oh,
was in
absolutely.
I was in college, and it was the year that OU lost. I don't mean to bring this up to be mean, I promise. OU lost to Clemson in the Russell Athletic Bowl.
God damn it.
Yeah, sorry. And there was a player who I will not use his name for his benefit, but I knew him pretty well, and he was on the defense at Oklahoma that year, and he came and hung out with us the next night, and he was at our house having a good time. and he brought all of his Russell athletic gear that he gotten for free for playing in the bowl game because they always get free stuff on bowl games, which is
Right.
cool. Totally deserve it, and I'm not being facetious at all. They totally do. And he brought his whole bag, and there's a bunch of people at our house, and we're all having a good time. And he's like, "All right, anything you want, y'all can take it." And we're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He goes, "They ran out of sweats and stuff, so I got smalls." This is a big dude. So they gave him like a small T-shirt, a small hoodie, a small everything was small from Russell Athletics because they had ran out of the right sizes.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was pissed.
Oh,
He was like,
I bet.
We went all the way down there. We got our butts kicked, and I didn't even get a free shirt." He was so mad, so mad.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. I love the athletic gear. I love the spring sale. At they have the McCaslin every year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm that's the only place I can go find like good stuff my size, especially like Nike gear and stuff. I'm
Right.
I'm lineman size, and so
Oh, you're.
I just
Yeah.
it doesn't matter when I get there. Like all that big stuff is still there.
Right.
So I'm just
Right.
like I'm taking my pick. I get out with a king's ransom after that.
For
I
sure.
love it.
For sure. For sure.
Forensics is cool. Put a little emoji with a cat wearing sunglasses. Uh, for anybody who doesn't know, that's my wife. So
Oh,
say hello to Audra.
hi, Audra. Why is forensics cool?
She has a master's in forensic psychology. She
Oh,
digs it. Yeah.
bro,
Like
are you not terrified
profiling,
by that?
like profiling and like serial killers and stuff.
She just said because murder.
Yep, that's about
um,
right.
are you not just terrified of her all the time?
Oh, every day.
Okay,
Every day.
cool. My
She's
mom
much
is.
she's much smarter than me. Like that's
Oh,
that's the main like reason that I'm scared, but also she's probably got me figured out.
yeah, yeah. My mother is a psychologist,
Hmm.
and that was an experience growing up with a psychologist in the house.
Yeah,
She's just like everything you say, she's just digging into it. You're like, "Mom, stop!"
yeah.
It's like I don't know if you've seen the show Lie to Me on Fox. It
I
is.
I know the show. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's literally that exact. I would say something. She goes, "You're lying." I'm like, "Stop, Mom. We can't do this all the time. You can't always know everything. It's not cool."
Yeah. No, it's pretty frustrating. Well, she'll call me out on my cognitive biases. You know.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
That's tough. That is tough for sure. More impressive season so far. Actually, this is a great question. Matt Rule or Ryan Day?
Um, I think Matt Rule. Um, I think mostly because it's a continuation of the last two seasons. I mean, to go from like 1 win to 7 wins to now 8-0.
Right.
8-0, or are they 9-0 now?
I think they're just 8 now.
8-0. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy, right? I mean, I thought Ryan Day would, and the season's not over, but you know, Ohio State's got the talent. They're going to blow the doors off of most people they come across. But they're going to get in, it's one of those games where it's come down, the players aren't, on their A game, and it comes down to coaching. And that's where I thought that Ryan Day might slip up at some point during the season, because Ryan Day is probably not an Urban Meyer.
Right.
And so getting him out of a tight spot, um, might it might be a tight spot that Urban Meyer could navigate that Ryan Day maybe can't. And we'll see. But right now they look like the best team in the country.
Yeah. I love Ohio State. Justin Fields is my favorite player in college football right now. I will say, I thought Ryan Day. I just with a new coach, like you just have no idea. Like, yeah, this guy was a great coordinator, but he might be an idiot whenever he's the one at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
I.e. Freddie Kitchens. Like anything can happen. You just have no idea.
Yeah.
Uh, they've scored 386 points and they've given up 63. Again, you're the analytics guy. That sounds pretty freaking good. And like they've just been awesome every single game. And that's what I've been so impressed by is the fact that even when they're blowing out the bad teams like they should, they're also blowing out Wisconsin, who everyone 2 weeks ago thought maybe might make the college football playoff.
Right.
So, yeah, they've been outstanding. I love watching Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State's risen to the top of, you brought up stats. They've risen to the top of almost every, like, predictive analytics rating that I've seen. Ohio State has kind of outpaced everybody. They've been really, really good. They look like the real deal.
Yeah. Just for comparison, I'm just looking at this and I find it hilarious. Ohio State has given up 63 points. Rutgers this year has given up 292. What in the world? Oh, the Scarlet Knights.
They're in the same conference.
They are.
I'll never get used to that. It's just like I'll never not accidentally call them the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Like, it's just one of those sports things that gets ingrained in your brain, and you'll never get rid of it.
No, dude, the San Diego Chargers thing, it is wrong every single time.
Yeah.
The one that's about to get me, and I'm dreading it. And I do radio for a living. I talk very quickly, and obviously a whole lot of it's not exactly prepped. So sometimes I'm talking faster than I'm thinking, which most of the time is fine. But here in the next season, I can already feel it. Every fan base is going to hate me because I'm going to say Spencer Sanders when I mean Spencer Rattler, and I'm going to say Spencer Rattler when I mean Spencer Sanders. Like, I'm going to screw that up 200 times next year. I'm confident.
Yeah, I do not envy that, having to talk about both.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's going to be rough. It's going to be a hard one to navigate.
It will. PJ Fleck. There's a lot of coaching questions. I was not prepared for all the college coaching questions.
PJ Fleck. How about that one? Better than Ryan Day or Matt Rule? Do you think?
No.
Right?
I'm happy for Minnesota being undefeated. Good for them. Good for the Golden Gophers. They seem to be firing on all cylinders.
Row the new boat.
Yeah, row the new boat. Their hardest opponent so far, and I'm not being funny, I think is Nebraska? I think?
Nebraska, maybe? Have they played Indiana yet?
No. They don't play Indiana this year. It's Nebraska.
They don't play them this year?
No.
Weird.
It's Nebraska, Purdue, or Illinois. That's their hardest opponent so far.
Oh my gosh.
So take a choice.
Yeah, that's gonna be rough.
They play Penn State.
Yeah, this game against Penn State might be.
Yeah, not tomorrow, but the week after they play Penn State. They're on a bye this week, and I'm going to go ahead and predict that Minnesota's going to lose that one by 30.
30.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, 30. That's a big spread.
Yeah, I'm sure the spread. Let's see. I do a gambling podcast 4 times a week, so I could actually be a little bit better about this if I wanted to. If I had to guess the spread, I bet this one's going to be, because it's at Minnesota, I bet that line ends up somewhere close to 17.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Will OU get a top 3 recruiting class in the next 5 years? Obviously, top 10 is nothing to hang your head on. I wouldn't hang my head on anything, but would like to see us break through. That's from Slatterday Saints.
I love the Twitch names. These are great.
I know, right? OU, top 3 recruiting class. What do you think?
Can I say it doesn't matter and I don't care? Is that cool?
No, that's completely cool. I'm not a big recruitnik guy, so.
Well, I think the Jimmies and Joes matter, and I think the star rating is like Todd Gurley was a 3-star running back. Like, obviously that was hilariously wrong.
Yeah.
But I do think what needs to happen is the receivers and the quarterbacks and all the offensive linemen they're getting now are great. Like, and I'm not saying this not. When I will decide that things have really turned around for Oklahoma long term is whenever they're getting great defensive recruiting classes year after year. And they look like they got a good one coming in 2020. But that would be the bigger indicator for me. Am I looking at their defensive recruiting class and going, oh, I like that guy, I like that guy, I like that guy. Because up until this upcoming year, it's a whole bunch of maybe one guy who you recognize from a list and then a whole bunch of nobodies. Whenever that turns around, that's when I think OU will really take the next step. And as far as the recruiting class numbers, I mean, you're right. They're all over the place. I don't know how much of a real predictor they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's some correlation with stars and making it to the NFL and success in college and stuff, but this is over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players. It's not about, for me, it's not about getting that one 5-star guy. It's not about landing that Spencer Rattler or landing that Buki Radley Hiles. It's about having a whole lot of top tier people. The more 4 and 5 stars you have, the more are actually going to pan out and be what they were touted as. And so it's about pushing those numbers and that ratio up higher.
Right.
Less about individuals and landing this guy or that guy. And so like thinking about it that way, I just don't pay a whole lot of attention to it year in, year out. It's good to have more highly scouted and highly rated people, but honestly, it's not like I'm waiting for that one guy to show up on campus and put a jersey on and save the Oklahoma Sooners. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I fall in love with guys every year. Like Jordan Hazelwood was a guy who, before he committed to Oklahoma, I was like, I don't know if the Sooners can get that guy, but he is different. So there's guys I fall in love with every year. But if you're out there in Saturday Saints, I mean, Blinkin, or you mentioned it, that there is some correlation with going to the NFL and based off of how many 5 stars you have and yada yada yada. First off, if the Minnesota line -6.5, hammer Penn State. Hammer Penn State. I would tell you that if you want that to change and you really think having a top 3 recruiting class is a big deal for the program, I'm not going to disagree with you or tell you you're wrong. The easiest way to do that, and people hate this answer, if you start pumping guys into the NFL, and I don't mean like you have productive players in the NFL, it doesn't actually matter what they do once they get there. That sadly isn't a huge factor. How many guys are getting drafted on day 1? How many guys are getting drafted in day 2? So if you want to have a top 3 recruiting class, you need to start pumping in some guys into that first and that second round of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And that is actually when you'll jump up in those recruiting rankings because kids look at that.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of concept with the 4 and 5 star guys, and you want more, you want quantity, and some of them will pan out. It's the same thing with ranked recruiting classes. You don't want a top 3, you want a whole string of top 5s. Like you don't want that one big OU recruited better than anybody else in the country this year. You want to be in the top 10 always. And
right.
So that's more important than, one big class. So
Sure. I mean, shout out Ole Miss, who had the best recruiting class, 4 or 5 years ago, and that turned into a whole bunch of nothing.
Right. I mean, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
now they were also
people
paying
don't know
those players, but
Well, people don't know what kids are going to do and grow into, and a lot of scouting is trying to guess potential, and that's super hard. You know what I mean? Like there could be a guy that looks like a man among boys in high school, but that's all he's got.
Right. Yeah. It's always too. It's what situation are you in? Are you in the right situation? Does this scheme make sense for your skill set? Are you going to be playing out of position, or are you a true corner? And they have a whole bunch of corners at this school, so they're going to move you to safety because all their safety stinks. So now you're playing the wrong position. Like all that stuff matters.
Right.
And so if you're a 5-star corner, but you're having to play free safety because they don't have anyone to play back there, it doesn't matter if you're a 5-star corner if you're a 2-star safety. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Apparently, Grumpy says Sean Clifford is the truth.
Sean Clifford is the truth. I love the coaching talk. I love it. I don't talk about a whole bunch of coaches generally on the air. People usually don't care. But no, Sean Clifford has been great this year. And what was now this is embarrassing. What was the kid's name who was there the past few years who was supposed to be the next Baker Mayfield? Just totally overhyped.
I don't know.
He was a
Is he the kid that went to?
He's in the NFL now, and
he's in the NFL now.
Yeah, I googled former Penn State quarterback, and the first one that came out was Matt McGloin, which is not who I'm thinking of. Trace McSorley.
Okay. Yeah.
Trace McSorley wishes that he was as good as Sean Clifford. Like he wishes he was that good.
Yeah. He was he was a gamer. He was one of those guys that it came down to him and he'd make some plays.
Was he?
I think so. At least that's what it seemed like.
That's
right?
what everyone said. I
saw it a
couple
couple times.
Bunch of games. Yeah.
I mean that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you remember the beginning of this season with Bo Nix. Bo Nix was the guy. And even 3 weeks in, when Bo Nix is throwing like less than 50% completion rate, and his passing efficiency is like 108, people are like, "Oh, this guy's the truth. He's the next big thing. He's such a good player." It's because he made one drive against Oregon to win the game.
Right.
And
I mean, a good drive that he deserves credit for. Can I tell you an embarrassing story about myself and Bo Nix?
Yes, absolutely.
I was not familiar with Bo Nix coming into the year. I knew who Joe Burrow was transferring out of Ohio State. But for some reason, there's just a lot of information passing through my head, and my IQ is not very high. So there's like a limit on how much I could fit in to my brain. And for some reason, early on in this season, I convinced myself somehow that Joe Burrow was the true freshman at LSU, and Bo Nix was the transfer from Ohio State. And I didn't say anything. Like I never brought it up on the radio or on a podcast, but I just walked around thinking that for 4 days. And once I had this realization, I was like, oh, thank God that never came up, because what a stupid thing to think.
That's funny. I'd never heard of him until, that very first week, and Auburn, Oregon was going to be, this big game, and, Auburn's going to have a great year because, I don't know, the weird, odd numbered years, and Gus Malzahn, and, whatever he does to, keep getting extensions, he goes from, let's run him out of town on a rail to, well, let's give him a lot more money.
If he's on
year
a
in and year out.
If he's on a contract year, bet the over on win totals for Auburn, because that is a lock.
No joke. No joke.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, we had some more followers. Let's see. What's up? I'm Jared. Thanks for the follow. Couch Burgers. Thanks for the follow.
A strong name.
God, these names are great. Opa Sook. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Thanks for the follow, though. Quentin 1033. Mullen Labe 762556. That's a lot of numbers.
My God, this is Twitch. I don't know if you had to put that many numbers on your thing.
There can't be that many users on Twitch, right?
No, there's no way.
Much less 762,556 Malone Labe. Oh, Mikey likes it. Thanks for the follow.
Shout out.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, you're coming on my podcast next week, which I'm excited about.
Yes, that's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. Me and Sam will take care of you while you're up here, man. We're pumped to have you. And I'll ask you this question, so I'm just telling you, but I'm just got to know. It's my favorite question to ask people. What was your very first email address you ever had?
My very first email address.
Yeah. Because it's never just your name. It's always an iteration of because you're 14 when you make it. And so it's always an iteration of your name with some random number or a weird euphemism that made sense at the time. It's never just something simple. And I always think they're very funny.
Right. So the first one I ever made. Okay, so I was a kid, when the internet was just kind of happening, right? And this is, this is a little embarrassing, but my mother made my first email address for me. But the first one that I ever made and actually got to choose the name of was my Gmail account when I started school. And that was SoonerDude711.
Yes. Why 711? You like the slushies at 7-Eleven?
No. I actually lived in Walker, 7th floor, room 711.
That is awesome.
Yes, and I have no idea why I added the dude in there. That's sure
so
Sooner
good.
711 would have been fine.
Yeah. I made my first email address. First off, your wife liked the question, which, you're welcome.
Oh, yeah.
I asked this question because I made my first email whenever I was, I don't know, 7th grade, 6th grade, and I had a MySpace. And my very first email ever was reallybigsword@yahoo.com. And I know that sounds really terrible. And, I loved Final Fantasy. I loved all that stuff when I was a kid. And so, that's where it was coming from. But my parents thought it was hysterical because it just sounds so dirty.
Right.
So, we would be out in public, and my parents would be like, "Hey, Chisholm, tell them what your email address is." So, I was like a little sideshow for them.
Right, and you had no idea what was going on, right?
Right.
But all the grown-ups would snicker.
I thought they were laughing because I was 14 or I was 13 and I had an email address.
Mm-hmm.
No. They were laughing because it was really big sword at yahoo.com.
That's like a username in a bad chat room, right?
Exactly. That sounds like I'm a member of a website that I'm having to pay with my credit card every month.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I wish I could get into that email address, but for the life of me, I can't remember the password. But yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, well, I want to wrap this up. We usually do at the end of the shows a little kind of final thoughts segment. Something's on your mind. What are you thinking about? What would be your final thought?
My final thought is at 2:30 tomorrow, whether my wife is interested in it or not, I'm going to watch every single second of this Georgia-Florida game because I think they're both pretenders.
Yes.
And what does that look like when neither team is good, but everyone thinks both teams are really good? And then I'm excited to see what the reaction is afterward.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a whole cataclysmic event, and I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's what happens when a very stoppable force meets a very movable object.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. My final thought is I love off weeks, at least this part of the season, because we get into stuff that we don't usually get into, like hypothetical talks. I don't know if you caught it earlier, but I was listening to the Triple M Ranch, and they had a karaoke contest where people were singing parodies of R&B songs to Whataburger. I mean,
if anyone needs a reason to listen to our radio station, we gave away a year's worth of free Whataburger today on the air.
That is prime radio. That is so good. I loved it. But I love the off weeks because it's kind of a break. You get to kind of chill out for a weekend, and you get lots of random talk on sports radio. So
yeah, trust us, we were all struggling to fill the time. We were all like, oh hell, what do we talk about?
That's funny. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show. That was
for sure, man.
That was fun.
It was fun. I appreciate it. It was a blast.
All right, later chat. We will see you next time. We'll be back on next Wednesday. So catch me and Tom. See y'all.